I woke up to the hum of the city. Neo-Kyoto never sleeps. Its holographic billboards paint the sky with colors I don't remember seeing before. Everything felt new. Too new. I was in a small, sterile apartment, the kind of place you rent when you don't plan on staying long. A sleek datapad on the bedside table blinked with a single notification. My name is Aiko, or at least, that's what the ID on the datapad said. It felt strange, like wearing someone else's clothes. I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. A girl with dark, choppy hair and eyes that held zero recognition. Just a blank, empty stare. It was unsettling. This complete and total void where a life should have been. The city outside my window was a marvel of technology. Flying vehicles, or sky racers as they were called, zipped between towering skyscrapers that touched the clouds. People on the skywalks below moved with a purpose I couldn't feel. They all had their memories neatly filed away, accessible with a simple thought. The Memory Bank Corporation made it possible. Everyone backed up their lives, their experiences, their entire identities to a central server. It was as common as breathing. You could relive your favorite birthday or delete a painful breakup. Your mind was just another hard drive, ready to be organized, defragmented, or wiped clean. It was supposed to be perfect, a world without the baggage of unwanted pasts. I picked up the datapad. The screen was cold against my fingertips. The notification was a system alert. It read memory.x, file corrupted. My heart, or what I assumed was my heart, started to beat faster. I tapped into my personal cloud storage, the digital space where my life should have been. The folder was there labeled Aiko_mem_backup. I clicked on it. A new message popped up. Stark and final. File not found. Panic began to bubble up in my chest. No backup? That was impossible. It was a mandatory process drilled into us from childhood. Without a backup, you were a ghost. A blank slate. A nobody. Who was I? What had I done? My mind raced, searching for an answer that wasn't there. It was just white noise. A deafening silence where laughter, tears, and conversations should have been. The corrupted file, memory.exe, was all I had left. A broken link to a life I couldn't access. Great, just fantastic, I thought to myself sarcastically. Woke up with no past and a broken file. This is peak efficiency. The sarcasm was a weird comfort, a tiny spark of personality in the overwhelming emptiness. It was the first thing that felt truly mine. But the fear was real. A corrupted file wasn't just a technical issue, it was dangerous. It meant something went wrong. Terribly, terribly wrong. I decided to leave the apartment. Staying there felt like being in a cage. As I walked onto the crowded skywalk, the sounds of the city hit me. The whir of drones, the chatter of people, the endless advertisements. But underneath it all, I heard something else. Whispers. Faint and fleeting like static on an old radio. A child's laugh, then a snippet of an argument. I never said that! A man's voice insisted. I flinched, looking around. No one seemed to notice. They were all lost in their own worlds, their own perfect memories playing on a loop. The voices were just for me, echoes from the city's digital trash bin. This was a weird side effect I was discovering in real time. Apparently, when you're a walking corrupted file, you get to hear the ghosts of deleted data. It was like living in a haunted house, but the ghosts were memories people had thrown away. A woman's sob echoed in my ear, followed by the soft melody of a forgotten lullaby. It was deeply personal and I felt like an intruder. Okay, add creepy memory eavesdropper to my list of unknown skills, I thought dryly. I tried to block it out, to focus on the solid chrome beneath my feet. But the whispers were persistent, a constant reminder of the digital graveyard surrounding me. I needed answers. The Memory Bank Corporation headquarters was a good place to start. It was a massive, intimidating structure in the center of the city, a temple to organized thought. As I got closer, the whispers grew louder, more frantic. It was a chorus of discarded moments. I love you, whispered one voice. You're fired, boomed another. It was overwhelming, a tidal wave of emotion from strangers. I pushed through the feeling, my quiet nature helping me blend into the crowds. I observed everyone, their faces, their movements. Were they happy with their curated lives? Or did they miss the memories they had chosen to forget? My quiet observation was a strength. I noticed things others didn't. The flicker of anxiety in a man's eyes as he accessed a memory. The way a woman smiled but it didn't quite reach her eyes. They were all acting out a script. I felt like the only one seeing the cracks in the system. The whispers were proof that nothing is ever truly gone. It just gets buried. And now, for some reason, I was the one who could hear it all. The thought was terrifying but also intriguing. What if my memories weren't just missing? What if they were deleted? And if so, why? As I navigated the labyrinthine streets of the lower city, a new feeling emerged, the chilling sensation of being watched. It wasn't just paranoia, it was a prickle on the back of my neck, a shadow that moved when I moved. I ducked into a noodle shop, the steam and smell of broth a welcome shield. I sat in a booth, keeping my head down, pretending to study the menu. Through the window I saw them, two figures in long dark coats, their faces obscured by the perpetual twilight of the lower levels. They weren't looking at the shop. They were scanning the crowd. Their movements were precise, efficient. They weren't cops. They were something else. They were looking for me. I knew it with a certainty that defied logic. It must be about the corrupted file. Memory.x wasn't just a glitch, it was a target. Why would anyone want a broken file? Unless it wasn't broken. What if it held something valuable? Something someone had tried to erase. But the process failed, leaving this corrupted remnant behind. So I'm not just a blank slate. I'm a blank slate with a bullseye on my back. Wonderful. My inner sarcasm was working overtime, a defense mechanism against the rising tide of fear. I had to move, to disappear into the city's underbelly. The whispers in my head became a strange sort of guide. He always checks the alleys, a gruff voice muttered. A deleted memory from some long-forgotten detective. I listened. I slipped out the back of the noodle shop and into a maze of narrow alleyways, dripping with condensation and smelling of rust and decay. The men in coats were systematic. I could hear their communications through the city's network, another fun perk of my condition. Subject is female, 17, last seen near Sector 7. They were talking about me. They knew who I was, even if I didn't. This was no random hunt. It was a targeted extraction. My quiet nature, once a simple personality trait, was now my greatest weapon. I moved silently, a ghost in the machine. I watched, I listened, and I learned. The men were agents of the Kronos Corporation, a rival of the memory bank. A whisper from a deleted corporate espionage file told me that. They specialized in data retrieval, especially data that was supposed to stay lost. They weren't just hunting me. They were hunting what was inside my head. The corrupted file. My missing life. The chase was on, and I was unarmed, unknown and utterly alone, running from an enemy I didn't understand for reasons I couldn't remember. I found refuge in an abandoned data haven, a relic from the early days of the net. The air was thick with dust, and old servers lined the walls like metal coffins. I needed to know what was in Memory.x. It was my only clue, my only hope. I found a functional, albeit ancient, terminal and managed to jack my datapad into it. I initiated a deep scan of the corrupted file, trying to force it open, to salvage anything from the wreckage. The screen filled with lines of broken code, a digital scream. The whispers in my head intensified, a cacophony of lost souls drawn to the raw data. It was agony. I pushed through the pain, focusing on the screen. The code flickered and swirled, and then, for a split second, an image appeared, a face. It was a man, older with kind eyes and a sad smile. He was looking right at me. There was a flicker of recognition in my gut, a phantom limb of a memory. Who was he? Was he my father? A mentor? The name Dr. Aris echoed in the static, not from the whispers of the city, but from somewhere deep inside the corrupted file itself. It was the first piece of my own past I had touched, and it felt like a jolt of electricity. The file fought back. The image dissolved into a storm of corrupted data, and the terminal sparked, going dark. But the image was burned into my mind. Dr. Aris. The name was a key. As the terminal died, a new voice cut through the others, clearer than any I'd heard before. It was the man from the image. Aiko. His voice was a ghost in the machine, a recording trapped in the code. If you are hearing this, the memory wipe was incomplete. They didn't get it all. Memory.x isn't a file, it's a key. Don't let them have it. Find the Nightingale. The message ended abruptly. The Nightingale? Another clue, another piece of a puzzle I was desperate to solve. I now had a name, a face, and a mission. The agents from Kronos were not just hunting a file, they were hunting a key. A key to what? And who was they? Before I could process it all, the heavy metal door of the data haven slid open with a deafening screech. The two agents in their long dark coats stood silhouetted against the light of the alley. They had found me. One of them stepped forward, their face finally visible. It was a woman with cold cybernetic eyes. She smiled a chilling predatory grin. End of the line, little glitch.